Motorcycle racing was conducted on American soil. The year was 1965, and the sport was dominated by European riders. In recent years, that has all changed with the emergence of American contenders and champions. But the talented Yanks haven't had the chance to showcase their high-speed skills in front of their own U.S. fans. Today, that all changes as the Grand Prix competition returns to America. And the spotlight falls squarely on two longtime rivals and world champions.
500 GP racing is back in America, and I want to win this one.
It's my first time to America, and as world champion, I'd like to show the Americans all the way home who's boss.
An international field is back in America, ready to square off in the U.S. International Grand Prix. Our location borders on one of the most picturesque areas of the world, the famed Monterey Peninsula of Central California, home of Pebble Beach, Carmel, and a variety of scenic wonders. And just inland from the coast, motorcycle fans from all corners of the country and from around the world have converged on Laguna Seca Raceway in record numbers. In fact, a crowd approaching 100,000 is expected. Hello, everyone. I'm Gary Gerald. It has been 23 years since the United States last hosted Grand Prix road racing competition for motorcycles. And since the American riders have very much dominated the international scene, winning the World Championship 7 of the last 10 years, the return of such competition to this country has been a long-awaited event. Now, one of the men who has really been responsible for the American dominance in recent years, three-time world champion Freddie Spencer, who today joins our NBC broadcast crew. And Freddie, the obvious question, why are you here in this role? Why aren't you putting on the leathers and getting ready to climb on that bike?
Well, Gary, during the wintertime, I went through a very rigorous training program. But it was in February, while we were testing the new machines, it was evident that I couldn't put out 100% week in and week out. So I had to make that tough decision, and that was to retire.
So even without a former champion by name of Spencer in the field, it is an illustrious field. You have the defending world champion, Wayne Gardner from Australia. We also have, of course, the former two-time American champion, Eddie Lawson, both men that you've gone wheel to wheel against all around the world.
Yeah, they are definitely the 2 out of 3 toughest riders I've ever raced against. And Wayne Gardner especially wants to redeem himself after the Japan race. And Eddie Lawson would of course, like to win in front of his home crowd.
Now, you mentioned Japan. That was the season opener, and there was a stunning surprise as young Texan Kevin Schwantz defeated the field, his first Grand Prix victory.
That's right. Suzuki worked very hard during the wintertime, and Kevin, being an unproven quantity, proved that he can be a winner on the GP circuit.
Now, for the Americans today, there has been one setback because one of the favorites, Randy Mamola, 4 times runner-up for the World Championship, is not in the field. That's because of a practice crash on this new Laguna circuit. For that story, let's go down to the pits now and Sally Larvey.
Thank you, Gary. The story here with Randy is he took a nasty spill in turn 3. He's okay, but he did suffer a mild concussion, and he won't be racing today. First of all, Randy, how do you feel?
Well, I'm a little bit groggy, sort of lightheaded, and the doctor on Friday after I got out of the hospital, they did release me, and they said that it would be better off if I didn't practice yesterday, and so we decided not to do that. And with it missing those 2 practice sessions, it's very, very important. You know, I had to pull out of the race for today. I'm still a little bit groggy, but hopefully I'll be okay for the next race in Spain.
What happened, Randy?
Something broke in the engine. I wasn't too sure, but I could hear a noise going on, and I grabbed the clutch trying to save it. Just as I bent into the corner, it was probably about a 75-mile-an-hour corner. And when the bike threw me sideways, it threw me up in the air, and I landed on my back. And when I landed on my back, my head hit the ground really hard, and it knocked me out for just momentarily.
Too bad, because you're really looking forward to racing here.
Yes, very much so. You know, I just live just north of Monterey here from Santa Clara. And, you know, all my fans and my friends are here, and I've been racing here for years. And I think it's about time that, you know, the United States gets Grand Prix, and here I am, I'm missing out on it. You know, it's just, it's a shame.
Randy Mamola, very disappointed, but looking forward to the future. Gary?
So Mamola, who won 3 events last year, won't have the opportunity to challenge this man, Eddie Lawson, a 2-time world champion. Another significant story today, a redesigned circuit. Ian Norris has details.
I'm standing on the line that divides the old Laguna circuit from the new one. The riders approach from over my shoulder, behind. In the old circuit, they went into a long left-hand sweeping turn, very fast. Indy cars do it at 180 miles per hour. But that circuit's only 1.9 miles long. The minimum length for a Grand Prix circuit is 2.2 miles. So to bring it up to that length, Laguna Seca created a whole new infield section approached by this hairpin here. It's got 2 right-hand bends, a left-hand bend that takes you back onto the old circuit. It cost $1.1 million, and they needed 10,000 truckloads of soil to build it. It's a big investment, but it's worth it for America's first Grand Prix.
And so for the first time, this new circuit will be tested. It is now an 11-turn course, 7 left-handers, 4 right-handers. Let's go to the circuit now. Let's call on Freddie Spencer to take us a ride around.
Coming off the fastest part of the racetrack, you lean hard to the left, you touch the knee pad and up, and you accelerate hard down to turn 3. This is very important and critical part of the racetrack here because the amount of traction. You lean it hard to the right, and you accelerate coming off of turn 3 up to 4th gear. This is the fastest part of the new circuit. After you bank it hard to the right, you accelerate up to 4th, 5th gear roughly. It could be up to 100, 120 miles per hour. The transition here from the new part to the old part is critical. As you can see here, leaning hard to the left, you can see the transition from the new section to the old section and the change in adhesion. Leading up here to the slowest part, one of the slowest parts of the racetrack, the bikes get light. Under powerful acceleration, what that means is that the front end has a tendency to come up and you need to move forward. Now we're leading into one of the most unique aspects of Laguna Seca, the corkscrew. Under hard braking here, you lean to the left and your knee grazes the ground. And then you shift your body weight to the right and your knee drags the ground. Then you accelerate hard down to the roughest part of the racetrack. This is very difficult for the 500 riders because they accelerate so hard here and the bikes do move around a great deal.
So that's a ride around the newly redesigned Laguna Seca circuit. It is definitely a rider's track, and to a man, they'll tell you it is a handful. Here's Wayne Rainey, the American rider who had the fastest qualifying time, the field pulling away for the first of 2 sighting or warm-up laps now. The simple purpose, warm the temperature of the tires to get maximum adhesion. The start comes up in a moment. We'll be right back.
This NBC Sports presentation of the United States International Grand Prix is brought to you by Yamaha. We make the difference. And by Nissan Cars and Trucks, built for the most important race of all, the human race.
Back at Laguna Seca Raceway, the warm-up laps just being concluded. We're only moments away from the start of the U.S. International Grand Prix as we check out now the starting field. From the pole position, Californian Wayne Rainey on a Yamaha. He was the fastest qualifier. 2-time world champion Eddie Lawson, also from Southern California, also on a Yamaha, is second quickest. Neil McKenzie from Scotland on bike number 5. It's a Honda. He had the 3rd fastest time. Kevin Schwantz from Houston, Texas, the Japanese winner. And bike number 34 is Suzuki. And rounding out the first row from Australia, Kevin McGee on a Kenny Roberts Yamaha. From the number 6 spot, defending world champion Wayne Gardner from Australia on a Honda. 7th fastest qualifier, Christian Charon from France on a Yamaha. And completing the top 8, Japanese rider Shunji Yatsushiro on a Honda. As we look at the rest of the field, there are a couple of vacancies. We mentioned, of course, the injury to Randy Mamola in practice. Also, Patrick Ogawa of France was injured in a practice accident and is unable to participate in today's event. A possible problem for Kevin McGee, who was over along the pit wall, conferring with his crew, now rolling number 16 to his starting position outside in row number 1. 17 riders awaiting the command to start. There's the defending champion Gardner inside second row. Moments away. Grand Prix racing coming back to the United States, and we have a start. Wayne Rainey from the pole position away quickly. Haslam from row 3 jumping up. Also Gardner inside row number 2 holding second, but here comes the Scottish rider. It's Neil McKenzie, a number 5 outside to take the lead, and Gardner coming through down low moves to second. Everybody safely through that first twisting turn on the newly redesigned portion of Laguna Seca. And look at the lead now that Neil McKenzie is stretching out here, and the move by Gardner as he picks up 2 spots. Quickly back into second place. This is a bit of a surprise, Freddie.
Yes, it is, because this is their first time the Neils led a Grand Prix. But Wayne Rainey and Kevin Schwantz made a mistake. Their adrenaline is flowing, and Wayne Gardner took advantage of that.
We've got a problem. Eugene Brown, the veteran U.S. rider who in fact competed in the last U.S. Grand Prix at Daytona in 1965, down in turn 3, but apparently uninjured. Meanwhile, the field moving to the top of the hill, getting ready to attack the corkscrew for the first time today, being paced by McKenzie. Gardner runs second. It's Rainey in third. Kevin Schwantz is fourth. Ron Haslam from Britain is fifth. Christian Serrana, number 7, is sixth. Eddie Lawson, not with a good start, back in 7th place. Twisting their way for the first time into the corkscrew, leaning first to the left, then to the right, coming down through the bumpy portion of the circuit, and it's Neil McKenzie who sets the pace on bike number 5. Completing the first lap, this will be the slowest left-hand turn on the course now. It's very tight, and then it's amazing acceleration back up a hill where they'll hit 140 miles per hour.
You know, Gary, the main thing on this first lap is you want to get through without incident. But I'm sure, as you can see, Eddie Lawson did not get as good a start as he would have hoped.
Lawson at the moment back in the number 6 position. Got a long way to go to make up some ground. Now, what as we look at him in bike number 3 in that 6th spot, what will he be trying to do? A rider at a time.
Yes, one rider at a time. And when he gets to the top guys, he's going to try to figure out where he can pass them safely as possible.
Everybody has talked about this circuit as being a rider's track. The fact that you have to have such discipline to work on this course. Compare this circuit now to the European courses these riders are more used to competing upon.
Right. Well, this track is a lot slower, and it's a lot more demanding physically on the rider as well as the machine. There's really only one racetrack in Europe, Parama, the Spanish Grand Prix, which is one of the racetracks that I like personally, but it's very demanding also.
Neil McKenzie holds on to the lead. Gardner second. Schwantz still racing third. How about speed comparisons? The top European circuits speed compared to what we have at Laguna Seca?
Well, the top speed on the European circuits, it can be upwards of 200 miles an hour at the German Grand Prix is the fastest one. But at this racetrack, 150 is the top speed.
Cornering techniques of the utmost importance in this sport. Let's go to the pits and Ian Norris now about the wear and tear on knee pads.
This is it. This is the pad that protects the rider's knee. This is one of Eddie Lawson's from practice. That's the thickness when it's new. That's the thickness when it's worn out by the rider's knee. And this is from his right leg. They're all left-hand corners here. This is the one he uses least.
And you know, by the way, Gary, a lot of people think that the knee pad is used for protection, but that is untrue. It's used as a gauge for the rider to know how far he's leaning the machine over.
And speaking of riders leaning into a corner, let's take a look at Eddie Lawson now going to work on the inside of Wayne Rainey. Lawson, who got that bad early start, has moved up to 3rd place with that pass. Rainey trying to come back. Lawson holds him off. A beautifully executed move by Eddie Lawson, the former world champion from Southern California, now getting on track after having a disastrous start.
That was an incredible move that Eddie made on Wayne, because that's a very difficult place to pass. Everybody is making a large arc. Eddie is not. He's making 2 corners instead of 1.
Meanwhile, this is the leader, McKenzie on number 5, Gardner on number 1, and now Lawson becomes a contender in 3rd place, followed by Wayne Rainey and Kevin Schwantz. Those 5 trying to open up some daylight here in the early rounds at Laguna Seca in this Grand Prix competition. Lawson clearly seems to be the man on the move. Coming down through the corkscrew, look how much ground he's made up on the leaders.
Yes, that is true. It's incredible how aggressively he's riding. I've never seen Eddie ride this aggressively or this early in the race.
And this battle for 4th place also intensifying. Rainey in 17 holds on to 4th, but Kevin Schwantz, who won the season opener in Japan, is right there with the challenge right now. He has to be riding with incredible confidence after that season opening win in Japan.
Yes, but I think he's also under a tremendous amount of pressure. He wants to show everybody it was not a fluke, that first victory.
Kevin Schwantz, only 23 years of age. This is his first full season of Grand Prix competition. He's currently in 5th place. Wayne Rainey, the defending AMA Superbike road racing champion in the United States, holds on to 4th, still challenged by Kevin Schwantz. Quite a battle going on there as they chase Eddie Lawson in 3rd. In the pits, Kevin McGee, the Australian, we thought that he may have had a problem just before the start of the race, and the fact that he's in the pits now means that his day is virtually complete. Schwantz battling now and taking away the 4th spot from Rainey as they come into the corkscrew with a daring move. On the inside, he got a wheel up almost against the curbing. Using the racetrack side to side, Kevin Schwantz has taken over 4th, but Rainey gamely hanging on. And look at the chassis flex and bend there in that tough portion of Laguna Seca's 2.2-mile circuit.
You know, that's a very difficult place to pass at Laguna Seca because you're coming up over a blind race. You have to take somebody by complete surprise.
Well, no question, we're seeing some great early action here in the U.S. International Grand Prix, and we'll be back for more from Laguna Seca right after this. Back at Laguna Seca Raceway, we're watching the finest 500cc road racers in the world in the U.S. International Grand Prix. Defending world champion Wayne Gardner of Australia, number 1, chasing the Scottish rider Neil Mackenzie, who has led from the opening lap in a bit of a surprise. But Eddie Lawson, the man on the move from Southern California, and bike number 3, has moved into 3rd place after a very tough start, and it looks as if he soon will be a factor. Now, Freddie, I know that during the winter, you spent some time with Neil Mackenzie, and obviously his schooling has paid off.
Well, I think it's helped him to get started earlier in the race, which is very critical nowadays in Grand Prix racing.
The battle now shapes up for second as Lawson is clearly closing some ground now on Wayne Gardner. I have to assume that Gardner would be well aware of the fact that Lawson is moving up on him.
Yes, he is. I mean, he's watching Neil because he wants to catch Neil, but he knows Eddie is there.
Does the pit relay this information?
Yes, what they'll do, they'll put up the initials on the board if it's a plus, like your minus, you know, the second behind Neil, but also that Eddie's moving up. So Wayne is going to push hard to try to get away from Eddie at this point because he doesn't want Eddie to get by him.
You see a little bit of a wiggle there on the machine of Gardner. Does that indicate a possible handling problem?
Well, I think it shows more of how powerful the acceleration that the Honda has because the Yamaha is a little more smooth when Eddie is accelerating, and now he's getting into a rhythm, and I think you can see the difference.
Magnificent pictures from Laguna Seca as we watch Lawson on the prowl chasing Gardner, and of course the leader still Mackenzie. But look at this race for second place now as again Lawson and Gardner, who battled for the championship a year ago, move now to that very tight turn number 11. A little high, going wide, and looking back is Eddie Lawson. He lost a little ground there. What do you think happened, Freddie?
Well, what happened was I think that Wayne was not going as fast as Eddie thought he was, so he got in deep and he straightened up instead of running into him. When he looked back, it was just to check and see if anybody was behind him.
So all of that hard work cost him about a second, and now he'll battle to try to tighten it back up once again. Lawson has made a great run, and he has really captivated this record-breaking throng here at Laguna Seca today as he chases the Australian and the Scottish rider. Here's Mackenzie, bike number 5, still out in front. Here's Gardner in second, Lawson in third, and you can see now that they've opened up a little bit of daylight over Kevin Schwantz, who is 4th, and Wayne Rainey on number 17, who continues to run 5th. Rainey had been the fastest qualifier and started from the pole position. And look how quickly, again, Lawson has closed that gap. He is right back up, chasing the backside of Wayne Gardner, the Australian. Meanwhile, the race up the hill, continuing for 4th place. Rainey just won't go away. Schwantz has really been using a lot of racetrack here, trying to protect that number 4 position.
Yeah, I think it is evident that he's a little down on power on the Yamaha, so he's having to use a lot of the racetrack, and his corner speed is what is keeping him up in front.
Kevin Schwantz, the season-opening winner in Japan, currently in 4th place. You can really see how rough that racetrack is when they come down below the corkscrew. And the aggressive style of Schwantz reminds us of an AMA Superbike race here a year ago at Laguna Seca when Schwantz had a crash that eliminated him from competition. Now, on pit road, Sally Larvick is in Neil Mackenzie's pit.
Unlike auto racing, these crew chiefs have no direct communication, radio communication with their riders. So to overcome the problem, they place team members at strategic areas around the track. They're armed with walkie-talkies, and they then can relay back to the crew chief how their driver is doing at a particular time and place.
Irv Kanemoto is the man, and of course he was your man for many, many years, Freddie Spencer.
Yes, that's true. He's the only other person besides my father to ever work on my machines, and we had a great relationship, and without him, I don't think I could have won the 3 world championships, and I wouldn't have wanted to.
We're at Laguna Seca Raceway, where Grand Prix competition has returned to the United States for the first time in 23 years. Neil Mackenzie of Scotland has the lead. Number 1, Wayne Gardner of Australia, second, being challenged by the American Eddie Lawson. And this battle for second place is really heating up once again. Lawson challenging, nipping away. He made one mistake in turn number 11, but he's battled right back. And again, as they move up the hill toward the corkscrew, he's in a challenging position.
Yes, that's true. But you know what is really evident now is the corner speed difference between Wayne and Eddie. Wayne seems to be going a little bit slower. And that's where Eddie's making up all his time.
Coming down a little different line between the two riders in that spot, the rough portion of the track below the corkscrew.
Yes, and I think that's hurting Wayne on the exit because he's more banked over. The object of 500cc machines is to get them as straight up as possible, exiting the corner so you can apply power.
Pressure again being applied. This is where Lawson made the mistake a lap ago that cost him about a second, but no mistake this time. He's right there as they make the run through the gears up the hills. Speed approaching 145 miles per hour, setting him up now as they move toward turn number 2. This is where he made his move earlier to take over third place, and look at him, inside now. He slides underneath Gardner. The crowd roaring its approval. Lawson looking back over the shoulder as he's now moved to second place and sets his sights on Neil McKenzie. A great effort on the part of Eddie Lawson. He made the pass in exactly the same place that he moved into third when he got by Wayne Rainey earlier. Remember, Lawson, on the initial start, was back in 7th place. He has methodically moved his way up now into the 2nd position. An opportunity, Freddie, to go back and take a look at this pass and replay.
Eddie has already set Wayne Gardner up here. You can see it. He is waiting. He has made his move underward, and you can see he's accelerated right by him. That's incredible, and like I was explaining before, he's making 2 corners out of 1. As he's exiting the corner here, he looks back, which is incredible, I think, because he cannot believe how easy that was.
Well, Lawson is clearly the fastest man on the circuit. We've seen him move from 7th on that first lap, now to 2nd place, and the stalk begins. Will he be able to catch the young Scott rider, Neil McKenzie, who surprisingly has led this one from lap number 1. We see him flash by on bike number 5, lapping a slower rider, and here's Lawson on the move. Gardner now back in the 3rd position as we've had a very important change toward the top. And the American crowd, record throng here, approaching 100,000 at Laguna Seca, loving every moment and cheering on their favorite, American Eddie Lawson, as he chases Neil McKenzie. Stay with us. More Grand Prix competition from Laguna Seca coming up in just a moment. Along with Freddie Spencer, Sally Larvick, and Ian Norris, I'm Gary Gerald. We welcome you back to Laguna Seca Raceway. The U.S. International Grand Prix continues in the 500cc category. The chase for the lead is on. This is the attacker, Eddie Lawson from Upland, California. Here's a problem. Yatsushiro, the Japanese rider on bike number 9, has encountered some difficulty. He apparently decides that he wants to get restarted and try to get right back into the competition. Effectively, however, he has not been a strong contender. Here's McKenzie from Scotland, the leader. He's been there since the opening lap. But this is the story. Lawson, who was 7th on the first lap, has started the chase, and he's now closed it to within 10 bike lengths. Let's check back in on the pits once again. Here's Sally Larvick.
When it was first announced that the Grand Prix motorbikes would be coming to Laguna Seca, there was speculation that 3-time world champion Kenny Roberts would come out of retirement and race his last race here. But that is not to happen. Kenny is in the pits as the team manager, and Kenny, you must have mixed emotions about this.
Well, I do, but after seeing the heat today, trying to go 40 laps wouldn't have worked too good for a guy that hadn't raced since '83 at Grand Prix, so I'm kind of glad I'm watching.
You were so instrumental in bringing the motorcycles here to Laguna Seca. You must be very proud.
Well, we've had a lot of good races here before, and the people in America have enjoyed it. This is kind of a payback. They get to see the best show in the motorcycling world, and I'm just kind of happy to be a part of it.
Some tight competition on the track as Lawson chases McKenzie, and it was 1983. You had some great battles with Kenny Roberts.
I sure did, Gary, and of course it'd be great if Kenny and I could race here today.
Well, the battle right now is for the lead. It's McKenzie on top in bike number 5. He's Honda-powered, and it's a Yamaha right behind him, ridden by Eddie Lawson from Upland, California. Lawson with the advantage of all the experience and 2 world championships under his belt. He has been the stalker, but I think Neil McKenzie's done a marvelous job of holding off the challenge thus far.
Yes, I think he has. You know, he's feeling the pressure right now, but I think he's in a comfortable pace, and I know Eddie is really starting to feel comfortable because he's made up all the time, and now he's waiting for his moment.
He has made a couple of spectacular passes in turn number 2, and you can't help but wonder if that'll be the spot where once again he'll try to make his move as he stays within 4 or 5 bike lengths now of Neil McKenzie. Down past the pit straight. Acceleration as they come up the hill into the slight left-hander number 1, and then braking down to a hard second turn on the newly redesigned portion of Laguna Seca. Here's where he made the move earlier. Here comes the challenge once again. Again, it's to the inside, and yes, Eddie Lawson has put the wheel underneath and has moved on top. Lawson has taken the lead as the U.S. International Grand Prix back on American soil. And for the first time today, it is an American rider who now acknowledges the cheers of the throngs at Laguna Seca. Another brilliant move, the same place on the racetrack.
That's an incredible move. Eddie, that shows the experience that Eddie has over Neil and the rhythm that he's in, because he knew that that was a strong point, and he took advantage of it.
Do you acknowledge the feel of elation like we acknowledge it in the booth and the way the crowd is around the circuit? Do you feel that as a rider?
Well, what you really feel is the fact that you've made your move and you've taken advantage of every opportunity that's been presented. I think Eddie right now, he's only wanting to ride, as fast as he can, to be conservative and not make any mistakes.
Any concerns about having used up his tires and making this run?
Well, I think Eddie at this point is so far past that he's in a rhythm. I mean, he's not making any mistakes. But there was some concern before the race that there was going to be problems with brakes and front tire wear.
You can see that the interval is stretched out to about 8 bike lengths or so now. A little wiggle there coming off that final turn 11. I tell you, this crowd is really pumped, and they're into it now, because for the first time in 23 years, they're not only seeing a Grand Prix race in this country, but they see one of their riders out in front. An exhilarating moment. Neil McKenzie gamely hanging on. He's stalking now in second place. He had been in the lead from the top. But we'll go back now to turn number 2 and take another look at that pass.
Well, Gary, as you can see here, he set him up exactly like he did with Wayne. You can see he gets his bike turned earlier than Neil, and he's accelerating. You can see the hand movement. He gets the wheel under him, Neil has to lift up, and he's made his move.
From a psychological standpoint, what does it do to Neil McKenzie?
It's demoralizing, believe me. I think that now Neil kind of feels like that Eddie has come from behind, because he knew how far Eddie was behind him. And now he's just trying to maintain second place.
And very quickly, Lawson is really beginning to stretch out the lead now as he continues to work that Yamaha to the left and to the right, now through the corkscrew, and you can hear the crowd. Boy, are they into it as they cheer him on. Lawson is the leader. After a long hunt, he has moved from 7th on the first lap, and he now has the lead. Eddie Lawson, the man of the moment. We'll see if he can protect the advantage as the front runner at Laguna Seca right after these words from your local station. Well, there's certainly no question the return of Grand Prix competition to the United States has been a smashing success at Laguna Seca. Upwards of 100,000 race fans trying calamari strips, checking out the latest in racing leathers, checking out a variety of manufacturers' displays, street bikes, competition bikes, you name it, you'll find it somewhere on the grounds at Laguna Seca. And they're excited because right now, Eddie Lawson, an American, a 2-time world champion, has moved to the front of the pack, and he is protecting a lead now over the Scottish rider Neil McKenzie. He's being chased, however, by Wayne Gardner, the defending world champion on bike number 1, who holds on to 3rd place. Kevin Schwantz, the American, is riding in 4th, and Wayne Rainey, another American rider, is currently 5th. Freddie, what similarities are there between the road racing bikes that we're seeing today and street machines?
Well, Gary, a lot of people don't realize how close they are in relation. Honda got out of racing in the late 60s because they felt that there really wasn't a need to race. But all the factors now realize that the technology they learned from racing, it proves that they're a winner, but it benefits the street machines, especially in the 80s with all the factories as competitive as they are now.
Watching Eddie Lawson, who has the lead at Laguna Seca, crossing the start-finish line. It's been a long, tough afternoon for him to get to the forefront, but now that he's there, he's stretching out the advantage, and we have a race starting to shape up for 2nd place now between Neil McKenzie and Wayne Gardner. Lawson, however, seems to have that comfortable rhythm that you talked about a short time ago, and he's not easing up one bit.
No, as you can see, Gary, he's a lot smoother than anybody else on the racetrack. And from a rider's perspective, this was always my favorite part of the race because I was in a rhythm and easing away, and you just don't want to make any mistakes.
Eddie Lawson hoping that this may be the day when he's able to record his 20th career Grand Prix triumph. He holds the lead on a Yamaha. And let's take a look now at the challengers. Here's Mackenzie of Scotland on bike number 5 in second. This is a lap rider, Marco Gentili of Switzerland. In third place, number 1, Gardner from Australia. The Californian, Wayne Rainey on 17 is 4th. The Texan, Kevin Schwantz, is 5th on bike number 34. Interesting, those two battling for 4th right now, all last year had a heated battle for the AMA Superbike Championship in the United States. In fact, Rainey won 3 events last year and won the championship, while Schwantz was a 5-time winner but finished up 2nd in points. So they're used to running close to each other on this circuit.
Yes, Gary. You know, in fact, last year, Kevin Schwantz had the opportunity to go to Europe and ride the 500 a couple times. Well, Wayne Rainey did not, and there was some concern if he could adapt to the 500 this quickly.
Well, Rainey has done an excellent job thus far this weekend for Team Kenny Roberts, the fastest qualifier, and currently in 4th place. Go to the pits now. Here's Ian Norris.
This is about the point in the race when people will be thinking about tire performance. 2/3 of the way through, are the tires going to go off, as they call it in racing? Are they going to wear? You're leaning onto both of these shoulders of the tire. You're working it very hard. In temperatures like this, it puts an enormous strain on the tire, and this is where the worry starts.
Have you seen anything thus far that would indicate anyone having tire wear problems?
Well, I think it's evident that Wayne Gardner is. I think Eddie is a little bit smoother, and he doesn't seem to be having that problem. But the rear tire is a problem, but the front tire was the main concern for all the teams.
The power, of course, is applied to the rear tire, but actually a lot of people don't realize that front tire actually slides as well.
Yes, it does. Under braking, when you are braking deep into the corner, the wheel is trying to slow down and you're trying to steer it, so it's sliding in. And also when you first accelerate, you're pushing the front end to steer it. So you're sliding the front end in both circumstances.
Now, is the fact that it's an unseasonably warm day, temperature in the mid-80s, complicate this?
Yes, because, Gary, during qualifying, everybody was running a softer compound tire to get a good starting position. And in the race, they're having to run a harder compound tire, which means a harder rubber, because it's hotter and the distance is longer. So they're not sure what it's going to be like from, let's say, about 25 to 40.
And then you also have to consider, as we pointed out early, the new surface as opposed to the old surface. And that new surface, while you get good traction, may be a little more abrasive.
Yes, that is true. The new surface has a lot more abrasion, but the old surface is rougher. So that's even hard on tires because it breaks down the casing, which is the sidewall of the tire, and it makes the tire run hotter.
So all of these factors figuring into the competition here at Laguna Seca, the return of the Grand Prix to the United States, and it's American who has the top spot for the moment. Mackenzie runs second. Here's Gardner still in third as they once again come through the corkscrew. A year ago, on the way to the World Championship, Gardner won 7 events. He's currently in third place. And look at him ride the wheel as he comes down the hill toward the start-finish line, completing another lap at Laguna Seca, chasing Mackenzie and Lawson. Back for more in a moment. Back at Laguna Seca Raceway, while Eddie Lawson still has the lead, Neil Mackenzie is second, but Wayne Gardner is the man on the move in third place. Bike number 1 just going past our position now. It looks like he's developing some of that rhythm that you were talking about earlier, Freddie, as he poses a challenge for Mackenzie.
Yeah, Wayne is making up a lot of time now, but I'm not so sure if it's just that or Neil may be having some problems. You know, before the race, there was some concern that there might be brake fade, and Neil has a tendency to be hard on the front tires also.
We should also point out again as we watch the field come to the corkscrew one more time that without question this now becomes the most physically demanding circuit on the Grand Prix Tour.
Laguna Seca is definitely now the most demanding circuit because most European tracks you have a longer straightaway to rest on.
So then does fatigue factor enter into this? Is there a possibility that somebody could dramatically fall off the pace in the late stages?
That happens a lot nowadays because the bikes are becoming more physically demanding. I know for myself during the winter, I had to train a lot harder to prepare for this season than any other season if I would have been able to race, but of course had to retire.
The incentive clearly now in the favor of Wayne Gardner, second at Japan on the season opener, currently running third and closing in again on Neil Mackenzie. Now, Mackenzie finished fourth in the Japanese season opener. He's been a factor all day today, but Gardner is clearly putting on more and more pressure now as he's closed up to within 5 bike lengths.
Yeah, Gary, it's very evident that Neil's having some sort of problem because Wayne made up too much time too quickly.
Coming to turn 5, they leave the new asphalt back onto the old course, the transition now going up through the gears and up the hill. The famous corkscrew lies ahead. And look at now, as Wayne Gardner tucks directly in behind young Neil McKenzie. The challenge may be coming at any moment. They pull nearly side by side. The corkscrew looms. They'll be making their move to the inside. Here it is, Gardner at the top of the hill leading to the corkscrew. Takes the pass. He moves into second place. And that's only the second time today that we've seen one of the contenders make a pass at that spot on this course.
Yeah, that's true. You know, there's only been 2 places that anybody's made a dramatic pass. That's turn 2 and at the corkscrew. And I think both places has taken the rider by surprise.
So Wayne Gardner now starts thinking about Eddie Lawson. Is he too far ahead? The interval is about 7 seconds. And along pit road, Jerry Burgess, the crew chief for Wayne Gardner, taking a look at the clocks, trying to calculate in his mind, is there enough time? Can his man still do the job? The Aussie chases the Yank.
You know, Gary, there it looked like Wayne went a little bit wide, and I'm not sure why, because he straightened up when he should have been leaning more into the corner.
Moving to the late stages at Laguna Seca, we saw the early battle when Lawson methodically worked his way to the lead. He opened up about a 6-7 second advantage. It had been over Neil McKenzie, but now he has a new challenger, and it's going to be Wayne Gardner. This is Rob McElnay, a lap rider from Great Britain on bike number 10, who moves by us now, and here now is the second place contender of Gardner. And as you can see, the interval has stretched past 10 seconds. Nearly 11 seconds is the advantage that Eddie Lawson enjoys. Gardner's got a lot of ground to make up, Freddie.
Yes, he does. But not only that, but he has Neil McKenzie to contend with, because Neil has not let Wayne get away from him.
So Gardner, who made his Grand Prix debut in the Netherlands in 1983, won the World Championship last year, continues the stalk. Prior to the event, we asked him if he was still hungry in '88.
Well, I was asking myself that same question, in fact, at the last Grand Prix in Japan. And I was trying down to the last lap to win. In fact, I ran off the track. So I actually answered my own question, that the hunger is still there. I still like winning. I love the sport. I love what I do. And, you know, I think I'm very, very lucky to be doing it.
Freddie, he sounds like a man who clearly enjoys this sport.
Yes, you know, I think that Wayne is going to show a lot of people this year that he can be world champion again. But from my standpoint, I know winning my first world championship, when that carrot is dangling out there, it seems a little bit easier because things have to go right. You have to sacrifice a lot, but it's worth it. The second time around is more difficult.
Gardner continues the chase. Eddie Lawson on bike number 3 is our leader. If Lawson can hang on and win this event as he comes up on his teammate now, putting a lap on Didier Diradigus from Belgium, if Lawson can win this event, he would become the World Championship points leader for 1988, with still, however, 14 events to go. Freddie, is it safe to say at this point that this has now turned out to be a 2-man battle the rest of the way?
Yes, because Eddie is definitely setting a pace, and Wayne at this point is he may be pushing for a few laps, but right now he's thinking about the points, the championship, and staying in second place, because he knows that would put him ahead of Kevin and only 1 point behind Eddie at this time. And you think about those things out there on the racetrack.
So as we check the leaderboard, we'll be back for the final laps of Laguna Seca right after this. The final stages of the first ever United States International Grand Prix at Laguna Seca Raceway. I'm Gary Gerald with Freddie Spencer, Sally Larvick, and Ian Norris, and we're watching Eddie Lawson from Upland, California, trying to protect a 10-second advantage over his closest challenger, the defending world champion Wayne Gardner from Australia. They haven't called him Steady Eddie for nothing, Freddie Spencer. He has been very dependable at this stage of many, many events in the past.
That's true, Gary. We started out racing in the National Championships together and then in the World Championships, and he's always been tough and consistent.
And without question, racing in front of the American fans is very special today for Eddie Lawson.
I've said in the past, I said, you know, a GP is a GP. I mean, they're all really important, but when you have friends, family, you know, the atmosphere that you have here, this is the one.
Coming by pit road once again, methodically trying to stretch the advantage. He's still as smooth as he was early. Eddie Lawson in the lead at Laguna Seca, inching toward his 20th career Grand Prix victory. You talk about the international flavor of this Grand Prix event. Well, you can really find a great example of it in Eddie Lawson's pit. Let's check in again with Sally Larvick.
Eddie is American. American. His crew chief is Australian. His mechanics are French, Italian, and English, and his engineer is Japanese. Now, how do all these nationalities get along with each other? Well, I understand that if they're getting along together well, there's no need for a translator. And if they're not getting along together well, they don't want one. Gary?
Freddie, did you ever have that kind of an international assortment in your pits?
Yes, in 1985, when I was competing for both World Championships, the 250 and the 500, I had people from Australia, Japan, United States, England, France, and Italy. So I know what it's like. I'd come into the pits, and I couldn't understand what anybody was saying, but I had Irv, of course.
Well, the American road racing fans are getting a great example of it today at Laguna Seca, and I'll tell you, this battle for second place hasn't been decided yet, because while Gardner holds the number 2 spot, challenging still is Neil McKenzie, who led much of this race early. He is trying to close in and make a last gasp bid for the number 2 spot. But I think Gardner has sensed his presence back there with that look over his shoulder and is now trying to inch it back out as we come to the last lap at Laguna Seca. Our leader is Eddie Lawson. The American fans are delirious already in anticipation of a giant victory celebration. We watch the challenge for second. It's Gardner down through the corkscrew, through that rough 6, 7, 8 turns, back down toward the start-finish line, and you really get an idea of how much that bike moves around on that rough surface right there. The horsepower to weight ratio is awesome. And here's Lawson now, acknowledging his crew with just 1 lap to go. And we get an idea of the advantage he has as Gardner and McKenzie now pour the power on for the final circuit at Laguna Seca. Freddie, at this stage, with less than a lap to go, do you allow yourself any mental relaxation at all?
Well, you really can't, Gary. I know Eddie, what he's feeling. He's feeling the excitement, the adrenaline is flowing, but he's also, you got to worry about mental fatigue and not making a mistake, and I'm not sure he won't.
The race for second place, trying to heat up. McKenzie still putting the charge on Wayne Gardner, but it's Lawson, the man of the moment at Laguna Seca. And around this course, thousands of motorcycle racing fans cheering him on. He leaves the new circuit onto the old racing surface now. Less than a half lap to go. For the final time, he's climbing the hill, leveling it out, coming toward the infamous corkscrew at Laguna Seca, the trademark, the signature of this great racing layout. And you can sense the adrenaline flow as he tops a small wheelie, and he attacks the corkscrew now. For the final time, he leans to the left, to the right, the knee just grazing the asphalt surface. The crowd roaring over the top of that 150 horsepower Yamaha engine. And down the hill for the final time, Eddie Lawson from Southern California, 2 times a world champion, now just seconds away from his 20th career Grand Prix victory. He started poorly. He started in 7th place on the initial lap, but he worked his way to the lead, and here he comes now with a front wheel in the air. Lawson acknowledging the checkered flag as he has the victory in the first U.S. Grand Prix at Laguna Seca in 23 years. His crew responds in jubilation. For second, it's Gardner over McKenzie, who finishes third. So Eddie Lawson, who last year won 5 times on the Grand Prix circuit, has the rare luxury now of acknowledging the home crowd fans. Nearly 100,000 strong at Laguna Seca. Eddie Lawson, a man who just a few years ago had a devastating crash on this circuit. Forgetting all of that in this moment of pure victory and jubilation, pumping the fist as he circles the course, and look at the fans on the hillsides here at Monterey. The reaction also now from Gardner coming up alongside to acknowledge the drive by Eddie Lawson. Has to be a special moment for any rider, Freddie Spencer.
Oh, yes, it is. I know Eddie's feeling excited not only for a Grand Prix victory, but to win here in the United States. And what you saw there from Wayne was just a moment of respect. You know, they're fierce competitors on the racetrack, but he respected the ride that Eddie put in.
And we'll be back to talk to our winner in just a moment. And so the first U.S. International Grand Prix is complete, and what a day it's been. A clean sweep for the Americans, because earlier today, Jim Felice of California won the 250 class, a stunning victory in his first ever GP event. But the man of the moment right now is clearly Eddie Lawson, who has gotten off his machine and is walking up to the crowd and is throwing his helmet up over the fence to the fans. That is an unprecedented move. I've never seen anything quite like that, Freddie.
Yeah, I think that's unusual for Eddie to show that much emotion. He threw his gloves and everything. I'm sure that whoever gets that will feel very lucky.
And listen to the crowd react up there. Emotion on the hillside. Well, there's also emotion down in the pits as well for Eddie Lawson. Let's check in with Sally Larvick.
Eddie Lawson's team, we mentioned a lot of nationalities here, and I've never heard so many languages at one time. How do you feel?
Oh, yes. In Italy, no problem. España.
Any English that you know, right?
Primo.
You know,
Numero uno, number one.
Gary, I guess this says it all, and they're saying it all the way. Back to you, Gary.
So everyone savors the moment, especially this young lady. What a souvenir she has. Let's go to the winner's circle and Ian Norris.
How did it feel out there?
Yeah!
I think that tells you the best thing really was crowd power, though. Crowd power was on your side. It was driving you forward all the time.
You better believe it. I'll tell you, I saw those guys waving their arms and everybody was screaming and yelling, and I'll tell you, it pushed that thing forward.
Thanks very much, Eddie Lawson. You must be very proud.
So the excitement level still very, very high at Laguna Seca as we check the final standings. 3 Americans in the top 5, Lawson, Rainey, and Schwantz. Mike Baldwin also in the top 10 on his Honda. So after the long waits, the American fans go home happy. The Grand Prix is back, and an American has won in a very impressive performance.
Yes, it is. Eddie rode very aggressively. He didn't get a very good start, but that shows how bad he really wanted it.
Indeed he did. Our congratulations to the champion of the day, Eddie Lawson, as the World Title Championship pursuit continues. For Freddie Spencer, for Sally Larvick, for Ian Norris, I'm Gary Gerald saying so long from Laguna Seca.
The United States International Grand Prix has been brought to you by Budweiser, Beechwood Age for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. And by Honda motorcycles, scooters, and all-terrain vehicles. Honda, come ride with us.